Another lovely evening of Jaybird watching. The gang is here. Beers are popping. Everything is going up in space for the Toronto Blue Jays as far as, everything. This offense is going to match, hence the name of this evening's title. Ari Shapiro is our guest with Brendan Panikar and Adam Corsair per the usual, rounding out our wonderful holy trinity of Blue Jay bar talk.
Sure. Yes.
All right. I digress, fellas. So first off, how we all doing?
Great.
Yeah, doing fantastic.
Yeah.
Just a second, I got to sell a few shares of GameStop on my phone here. I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Great to be here.
Good deal. So I guess we'll just dive right into it, fellas, because apparently it's a very exciting time to all of a sudden be a Toronto Blue Jay fan, literally in the last week. So that's about the best way I can put it. We've went from literally whining about when this team is going to hurry up and get off the schneid and, stop riding the pine, whatever you want to put it, any baseball acronym insert here. And now they're swinging for the fences, it full on seems like. Ari, I'm going to let you tee this one up. George Springer was quasi in Toronto today for his induction. How excited were you to see him actually talking about the experience of signing with the Toronto Blue Jays and the fact that he seems genuinely excited to be joining this young team?
It's I'm glad to see he was wearing a mask, number one. And number two, I was just thrilled at the fact that that this happened. I mean, we spent about an hour and a half, it seems like, last time I was on the show, theorizing who would join the team, who we should target, which free agents are worth, going after. And I've got to be honest with all three of you, I never in a million years did I think this was going to happen. So there's a healthy surrealism here. And, I want to criticize facets of it sometimes because it's my nature to look at something and say, all right, it's everyone's excited, but really, what are they excited about? No matter what I seem to come up with at the end of the day, this is just such a great thing for Toronto baseball, period. This needed to happen at some point. And although I'm sure we'll go back at some point talking about the fact that he came from the Houston Astros, and I ran a poll on my Twitter feed, and it seemed like 1 in 4 people weren't too thrilled that he was involved with those Astros. But at the end of the day, everybody was overwhelmed. How can you criticize this? The team went out, they spent money, they got the best guy available for specifically what they needed to become the kind of team that has positional flexibility. And I love saying that, positional flexibility, right? Because we knew from last year's playoffs and what's going on with this infield situation right now and in the outfield that there are some guys out there who shouldn't be playing in the positions that they are. We're just kind of accepting that they can for now. This gives them the ability to do it. Getting Marcus Semion's a pleasant surprise. I thought getting Brantley was an even better surprise, but we now know that, like lemmings on social media, sometimes you got to be really careful what you're reading and what you're reporting. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. You know who you are, right? The media knows who they are. But to me, this was fantastic because he brings so much with him too. His story in itself, how he became a success story in baseball, the adversity he had to deal with, the way he got hosed with that whole free agent rule that ended up biting him in the ass in terms of how quickly he could start earning. This is a feel-good story for so many reasons, and I think the Blue Jays are finally showing their fans that, notwithstanding what criticism you've given Shapiro, and Atkins. It's a law firm, Shapiro, and Atkins. No matter what criticism you've given them, at the end of the day, it looks like they really are going all out to try to become a serious playoff contender this year.
Mr. Panikar, you were the one that was probably the most excited on this news. How are you feeling today after watching him, put on the jersey?
Well, I just got to make a comment first. Leave it to Steve Simmons to be the only reporter during the whole press conference to bring up the cheating scandal and ask a question around that. Of course, it's Steve Simmons, the guy who broke the confidentiality or whatever it was when Austin Matthews got COVID-19 and he tweeted that out, or the guy to get into fights with Jose Bautista or whoever it is. Can we stop inviting Steve Simmons to these events? Because he's single-handedly going to scare people away and not want them here anymore. But anyway, all jokes aside, it was exciting. And look, I think just to build off of some stuff Ari was saying, and I'm sure this sentiment is shared by a lot of people, Springer wouldn't have signed here probably if he didn't believe in what the team could accomplish over the next few years. Obviously, money talks. He's won a World Series already, so he has set himself up for his big payday. But at the same time, I'm sure he wants to win again. Like, how awesome would it be for Springer if he can, I wouldn't say diminish or make the Astros World Series win from 2017 a little more or a little less relevant on his resume. If he can be the main piece of the Blue Jays winning a World Series during the tenure of his contract, I think that will be looked upon much more favorably than his Astros tenure. And just all the stuff he was saying about how much Ross and Mark Shapiro, the law firm or whatever Ari called it, Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins stand by their players. And I think the sell job they did really came through in some of the answers that Springer had to the questions that got fed today. So I don't see how anything could make a Blue Jays fan upset or question the signing on any front after what we heard today.
Adam?
Yeah, the main takeaway I had with this is that there was a serious change in narratives, right? And, for a long time, we as Blue Jays fans, we were under the assumption, and maybe it was a correct one, that free agents just didn't want to go to Toronto. Toronto wasn't a destination for free agents given, I don't know, travel, given customs, I don't know, whatever reason you want to throw out there to sort of get in the way. Springer today in the press conference laughed that off. Basically, right? And he said, it didn't even come into the equation. I didn't really even think about it. I would just wanted to join a team that was poised to win, right? And that's what the Blue Jays are at least attempting to do. Obviously, things happen in baseball. We can't predict anything with any sort of accuracy most of the time. But when it comes to this, it's a change in the narrative. We had a high profile, if not the most high profile free agent of the 2021 class, right? We got him. And I think this ends the narrative of, high profile, high impact players don't want to come to Toronto because, this is 2 in a row, right? This is the 2 years in a row where we've had impactful players that were chased on the market that we were able to acquire, outbid, outdo other teams to get. Right. And it also speaks to the confidence of the young core that Springer has emphasized in the presser, saying, a big reason why he wanted to join the team. And of course, this can be lip service. Obviously, the number one reason why he wanted to join the team is money. Money talks. Let's be honest. But having Cavan, having Bo, having Vlad, having Pearson, having these players, Lourdes, on the team definitely helps. Right. It definitely gives a little bit more incentive to, hey, not only am I going to get paid, we have a legitimate shot at winning. Right. And I know I don't want to jump the gun here, but if they can just fix up the starting rotation, this team is going to be deadly. And it's not just going to be deadly for the short term, like 2015 and 16. This is a yearly thing that we can expect to assume that this team is playoff contenders. So to me, that's what the number one thing was. It was a complete shift in narratives.
Complete shift in narratives, but great way of summarizing it, Adam. I agree with you 100%. And how much of this do you think was the fact that why we're going to get to the next piece of this? So I'm just going to say segue points here because you were talking about how this is going to be alluding to what just happened. Does Marcus Semien make this move to come to Toronto on a 1-year deal without George Springer signing here would be a very adequate question. But just to, throughout the narrative here for all Blue Jays fans that may be living under a rock or weren't reading the news in the last few days, but Marcus Semien is going to be on the Blue Jays for an $18 million 1-year deal. And this lines up very good with where the Blue Jays are for the next season and going forward. So it's a great signing in my opinion. And Adam, seeing you just heat up that last one and you were pointing on the whole segue thing, go ahead and keep running with this. Semien, great move, or what are you thinking?
Oh, it's a great move. On paper, it's a great move. I have no issues with it. Do I think, to answer your first question, do I think he comes here if Springer's not? Yeah. $18 million for a 1-year. Yeah, he's coming here. And it's a deal to sort of recoup his value because he's hoping for a multi after this because the start of the 2020 season for him was rather rough. But at the end, he was kind of mashing, right? And if he can maintain that, and obviously consistency in baseball is a hard thing to bank on, but if he can, have that throughout a sample of 162, Blue Jays are in really good shape, and especially into the playoffs. Selfishly, this gives me a lot of red flags when it comes to Cavan Biggio, right? He's my man crush Monday. Everybody knows about it. I love this man on this team. I do not want him traded. Moreover, I do not want him playing third base. Right. So if he's going to do anything, he's going to be playing in the outfield. And now we have a surplus of outfielders. Right. And again, I don't want to get into too many segues here, but someone's got to go. So you can't trot this team.
Few minutes, we'll get to that.
Yeah, someone's got to go. But when it comes to Semien, yes, we needed a proper infielder. This means that they have confidence in Bo to keep him at short, which was Semien's natural position. You want to keep Bo at shortstop. That means he is there. That is his position to lose. He's not moving off of it. Do I see Semien playing short or even third sometimes? Of course, you're going to have off days. You're going to have spell days. It's going to happen. But to have an everyday second baseman and not have this super utility that, although Cavan was good at it, we still didn't have an everyday second baseman. Now we do, at least for the year. And who knows? We can extend him a qualifying offer next year. Anything can happen. But I think on paper, $18 million a year, I don't even find that to be a gamble. I think it's fine. And I think he's going to fit right in for this team.
It's almost the equivalent of adding somebody like, when was the last time we had an actual second baseman match 20 home runs? Was it Aaron Hill?
I was going to say Hill. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sound familiar?
Right there for a little while.
So worst case scenario, it's another guy wherever he bats in his lineup, another 20 home run guy. It's hard to say not successful, right?
All right.
Brendan, pick it up.
Yeah, I really like Adam's point about the qualifying offer, because especially if he has a good year, he signed for just below what a qualifying offer would be. And clearly that was probably the highest dollar amount he was going to get from anybody else. But you could extend him a qualifying offer, which he probably would reject if he has himself a very nice 162 game season, assuming that's the length of the season that we get. And then you could get a pick back. Now, I don't know how that's all going to change with the CBA expiring and with some of the other news and notes from that kind of stuff earlier this week. It's not off to a good start with the whole National League and are we going to get a DH and all that stuff. So, but that's a future problem. They, as of right now, it's great that they paid Semien. He's definitely worth it. He was just shy of an 8-win player in 2019. Now that's looking a little bit more like an outlier just compared to where he was in his career. But as you mentioned, Adam, he started slow last year, but he picked it back up to that pace where he was in 2019. So maybe he's turned a corner as a hitter and defensively as well. So no, it's a great pickup. It's again, if he does not come back after this season, with the guys they've signed on 1-year deals, and whether that's Robbie Ray, Marcus Semien, and other guys, that's, I think it totaled, guys on 1-year deals or 1 year's left on your contract, I think around $40 million that they can reinvest into the squad next year. And it also buys another year, hopefully, of minors, time for Jordan Groshans and Austin Martin, which if both of them aren't up here or knocking right on the door like Vlad was in 2019, I would be shocked. So it buys another year for that. And I am curious, I won't go down that road until we get to that topic, but I am curious what the plans for Cavan Biggio are, and I'll leave it there.
Watch your tongue, sir.
He's going to drop the gavel on you in about that. So, Ari, I'm going to let you wrap this up, but we just added a guy for $18 million, as Brendan and Adam laid out here, for more or less what would have been a qualifying offer. He is projected right now, way too early projections on baseballreference.com, as a 255 hitter with 20 home runs and 67 RBIs. In Rogers Center, that sounds pretty doable. And God, what if we end up playing in Buffalo?
Or Dunedin.
Him betting on himself and coming to Toronto to play with the Blue Jays for this season could be very, very spectacular to watch, as he's trying to obviously outdo himself. And be
spectacularly easy decision to make too, when you've only got to do a 1 year qualifying cost commitment. But yeah, I'm sorry, my mind is still lingering with reference to Aaron Hill. Who was it again? Whose perfect game he botched at the end there? Was it Halliday or Stroman? Who had? What was it?
Morrow.
Was it? That's it. It was Brendan Morrow. It was Morrow. Do you remember that? For some reason. And this is just such a shame, because Aaron Hill had such a really solid couple of years with the Blue Jays. But I'm sorry, that's all I remember was how he couldn't mail it home. So thanks for those memories, Kreger and his Aaron Hill references. Listen, Semien, look, it's redundancy, right? It's options. It scares Adam for the right reasons, which is what's in store for Biggio, and what does it mean with Bichette's health as well, right? That's another consideration. What happens if he's got any lingering effects on his health? I don't know. It's funny. Signing a player like this is almost like the Maple Leafs going out and signing, a guy that they know won't be around very long, but really changes the complexion of what their team is trying to do. And they also have a core of young players. What's interesting about the Blue Jays is that there's been no discussion to this point of trading any of those pieces. But I'm sorry, if you're going to start landing players like a Semien and a Springer and give yourself the opportunity to appreciate that maybe Teoscar Hernandez shows up continuing to act like, a guy who's proven me wrong, because I don't know if you guys remember, I had a couple of you on my shows back in the day, and I would pummel the hell out of this guy because of how just what kind of poor discipline and no idea what he's doing at the plate. But it looks like he's figured it out. And we talked about Gurriel Jr. as a wild card last couple of weeks ago when I was on the show. I just like the fact that it gives them flexibility. Who knows? Your guy who's 2 years removed finishing top 3 in MVP voting, he's obviously figured it out. And he might want to sign a long-term contract if the Blue Jays decide that they've got to go after certain pitching pieces. And by the way, I like that point. I think it was Adam who made it earlier. Maybe it was you, Craig, about, back-to-back years. I think Adam said, they've done it twice now. They got Ryu last year and they got Springer this year. And for a fan base that's been suffering, and, I recently on my podcast, I spoke with Arden Zwelling from Sportsnet, and I really hammered home on the fact that, I had a lot of criticism for this front office, but moves like this dispels any notion that they're just sitting on their hands. And that's why I think there's excitement. It's subdued excitement. You can only get so excited during a pandemic, but it's a good thing. It's a really, really good thing that they addressed the fact that they missed out on Brantley and picked up a Semien. And again, positional flexibility should be the name of this week's episode.
I like the one I went for. This lineup now, Nash. And
it will.
Brendan, it's your turn to go first here. How does this lineup do anything but not produce obscene amounts of numbers? Fangraphs is projecting him as a top 5 offense in Major League Baseball this season, not just the American League, the Major League Baseball in general. That's pretty exciting for Blue Jays fans that remember the echoes of 2015 or Whamco to go to that avenue.
Yeah, no, they after adding Semien yesterday, they passed the Mets for projected FWAR, and that's just not offensively. That's the entire team. And considering the state of the pitching, especially in the rotation at this point, that's impressive. And you don't make a move for Springer to make a move for Marcus Semien and leave your pitching unprotected. There's going to be a move there, whether it's through trade, whether it's bringing back Walker or Odorizzi, whoever it is. We've thrown those scenarios out there so many times throughout the offseason. But right now on paper, they're the 4th best team in baseball, according to Fangraphs projections. So that's exciting to see them up there with the Dodgers, the Yankees, and I think the 3rd team is the Padres. That's right ahead of them. And the Padres have had themselves a hell of an offseason too. So, look, I think I said this last week after they added Springer, and now that we can say with Semien in the fold, I don't want to call them the 2015 offense. I'm erring on the side that it's more like the 2016 team. That was still pretty damn good offensively, but not quite 2015 because that was historic level stuff. I don't know if we'll ever see that again, but you never know. If everything clicks and Vladdy, a more slender Vladdy, takes a step forward, if Bo is healthy for all 162 or 155 or whatever amount that he plays, Gurriel continues what he's done. Teoscar's breakout is real. And you could start thinking of what could be, and maybe it could be reminiscent of that 2015 team that was winning 10-8 and 9-7 and all those crazy scores that happened before the David Price trade and the Tulo trade. So, yeah, they're going to be very, very competitive on the offensive side of things, at least to start the season. But look, they're still going to add a starter or two to this rotation. I don't think that's even in the question. There will be another move.
Brendan, can I just interrupt and throw this in here, Brendan, the Tulo reference? That was with a Tulo in 2015 who was so emotionally angry and constipated that he was permanently grumpy every at bat. Like when you look back at what he did in that lineup, it's like he did it with one leg. Yeah, can you imagine if he was actually relaxed and motivated what they could have done? Man, Grumpy Tulo was the worst.
I think that's
yeah.
what the 2015 playoffs did for him, because he went off a little bit compared to what he was doing after that acquisition finally, and he had a couple key clutch home runs in that Texas series. So there was some big things there for Troy Tulowitzki back there. But good point. And Ari, if you want to continue and pick this one right up, man, it can be your turn.
Oh, I've got nothing to add other than, BP hit it on the nail. He summarized it perfectly. I love offensive baseball as much as the next person, offensive baseball, the irony of the double entendre of that for the Blue Jays, because it's been offensive for a while. Nobody likes the idea that you're going to see a lot of games where a team just strikes out a lot and struggles. And the Blue Jays had moments like that still last year. But more often than not, I think you noticed down the stretch as they approached the playoffs that they were starting to take command of games in much like those 2015 Blue Jays used to do. Remember, they would eventually win 10-8, 12-6, whatever. But there were moments where they would fall behind and they would just roar back. They would just absolutely roar back. And I think that's what this team has now, is a ridiculous 1-9 potential where you can build a lineup, mix up the lefties with the righties, and basically give the kids a chance to grow up and mature a little bit by being insulated with the likes of a Semien or a Springer, by having Hernandez now walking in as a big brother of sorts. He's still, he's not exactly a spring chicken anymore, but he's now learned enough that I think it hinges on his breakout season and in being a legitimate force in the lineup, because that's what that 2015 lineup had. It had players that you were scared to face, and you would overlook guys who would capitalize. And I think this is the year for players like a Biggio and players like a Guerrero Jr. to really show what they're capable of doing with some protection in the lineup. That's what it is in baseball. Right? Fundamentally, are you protected as a hitter? And boy, oh boy, Springer's got some experience with that. That's what I like.
Adam?
Yeah, it makes me wonder, Brendan, you raised the point that they're the fourth, or estimated to be the fourth best offensive team in baseball. Like, you look at this lineup, how would you construct it? I'm going to interrupt you. The answer is it doesn't fucking matter, because this team is going to rake. It does not matter how now obviously you want to have your fastest guy up top, and maybe Springer's the guy to do it to lead off because he's a dangerous hitter. But honestly, I can't complain. And everyone here knows that I've had my criticisms of Charlie Montoyo. I still think he's a bridge manager. I really do. But even he can't fuck this up. You really can't. You really cannot construct this lineup poorly, because it's just laid out for you perfectly. It's laid out for you however you want to construct it. It's going to produce, right? And now I sort of have the aspect of forgivability to let him be a little fluid and experiment, at least early on, as to how you want to construct this, so people can, or rather the players can, find their groove. And if you have a lineup that is producing and you stick with it, now you have this sort of familiarity with it every day. And that's going to produce dividends for this team. Honestly, it is so exciting seeing this batting lineup. And again, it's the first time since 2015, the second half of 2015, that you can really look at it and say, oh man, this lineup's dangerous. The only thing that's reminiscent to this is 2013 with the trade after it happened, rather. And you're thinking, oh man, this lineup is awesome. And then it wasn't. I don't see how this lineup can fail. I really don't. They're young enough. They're up and coming. Their production is there. And when you add a guy like Springer to this team, it just opens everything up. And when you add Semien to this team, and again, it makes things so solidified. I can't see how this lineup can fail. That does not mean I can't see them not winning a World Series. It's baseball. I don't want to hedge my bets on that yet. But in terms of, guys, I'm putting it out there. I'm getting wild tonight. Fuck it. They're better than the Rays. They're better than the Rays. 100% they are better than the Rays. Are they better than the Yankees? I don't know. I kind of like the Yankees pitching. I really do. Get me a Paxton. Get me an Odo, and then we can talk. But right now, they are better than the Rays.
It's all the other thing I'll say is, and Ari touched on the 2015 team and winning like 10-8 and all those crazy scores. If this offense now, if they go down 4-0 in the first inning, or maybe even after 3 innings, I am not worried at all. I know there's still a lot of strikeouts in the order, but at the same time, they're powerful enough for 4-0. The hell, they'll end up winning 8-4 or 8-5 and come back. And that's what 2015 was. 2015, you'd go down 6-0 in the first inning, come all the way back and win. It was insane. They were never out of a game, and I don't think this offense will ever be out of a game.
I don't think there's any way they can be out of the game, because just think even 2015. That was a lineup that scored Ryan Goins in it, Chris Colabello, some of these guys that were literally not even thoughts at the beginning of the season, and just happened to be enough to piece together what looked like a World Series team come trade deadline of 2015. Right now, there is not anywhere to hide in this lineup, except if you're going to make the idea that Danny Jansen's still going to bat $190. I don't see that as normal everyday Danny Jansen. I think that, honestly, the COVID thing in the break really slowed him down last year, because I thought maybe we were seeing something good in spring training last year, and then all of a sudden, and stop.
And he was scouted. You especially for years went on about Danny Jansen, and I could see why. Because once I had a chance to appreciate the player up close, it's obvious he's just got to put it together. His issue is not bad mechanics or a lack of focus or a lack of will. I think he probably is the hardest worker on the team, as you want your catcher to be. He's a Pat Borders kind of throwback in that regard, right? Sure. And Borders had nowhere near the talent of a Jansen. So if I'm Danny Jansen, I'm like, all right, I just got to work on it and put it together and stick with it, because it takes time for catchers to become great, let alone good. And but I was going to say that we're talking about what this lineup is capable of, and the best part is we aren't deluding ourselves. It's not like we're looking 1 through 9 and saying, well, this player hopefully will be optimal and he's all right, and this player hopefully will have a good year. No, these are talented players. I don't like living in baseball denial, and I did that with Pilash. Like, I'm sorry, with apologies to all the, I say that jokingly because I call him, it's Kevin Pillar, obviously, for listeners who are like, what does he mean Pilash? Because at the end of the day, it was like I was in denial that Kevin Pillar could convince me the way the media had convinced everyone that he was a starting center fielder. I mean, guys, let's not lie to ourselves here. He never was a starting center fielder. No. He was just the best option this market had. Yeah. And for a brief moment, excluding that brief moment where he looked like he figured it out, but then ruined it by showing us that, the locker room culture, garbage still permeates on the field. He got in trouble with that for a reason. He lost his focus in the game, his commitment to the game. But let's not fool ourselves. He never had this amazing talent where we called him Superman. Yeah, the catches were great. They were legit, by the way. Some people probably started complaining later that he was telegraphing his catches, and you could probably make that case because later in his career, it looked like he was acting a bit. But for that memorable summer where he took over and captured our hearts and mind, it cost us 3.5 years of living in denial that we had a starter in center. Now we have a top 15 player at center who can stand up and say, I'm the best hitter on the team, follow my lead. You see, and that's why the young players now are going to succeed, because they've got someone to emulate that. With the exception of the year 2017 in baseball, they're probably thinking that he's, God's gift. So we won't talk about that year. I raged on and up on the last show when I thought there was no chance in hell that we'd ever get him, and we got him. So now, well, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. I'm not changing my opinion. I think it sucks, quite frankly. I think it's pathetic that he got mixed in with it, because I did the research and it turns out he actually does better in high leverage situation when he doesn't hear a trash bin banging. You know what I mean? Like, when he doesn't hear a trash can, it actually ends up helping him. When he does hear it, he struggles because he probably realizes how absurd it is psychologically to sit on a pitch that could be coming, as opposed to using your instincts. And George Springer uses his instincts, and that's why I think he's going to be a great hitter. And I think these Blue Jays will rake, as Kragers likes to say from time to time. And all I hope now is that fans understand that it's still going to be a measure of getting the right pitching resources in place. Man, guys, I don't know about you. I really thought we were going to get Hendricks. How the hell does Hendricks come to Toronto, meet with the law firm, and doesn't walk away with a multi-year deal? I mean, you want to tell me that afterwards they were ready to spend that much on George? Like, I'm asking you guys, weren't you dismayed? Because I thought, man, that he's probably going to have a Dwayne Ward-style continuation breakout year, except we didn't get him. But no, Kirby Yates for that matter, and I don't want to step on your show organization here, Craig, but Kirby Yates is a nice concession plan, just like Sam is a nice consolation plan.
We thought that Liam Hendricks was the only lock the Blue Jays had at free agency. We were all pretty on board with that. And
I was more of a Sagano guy. I was hoping for some Japanese fun myself, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
To find out that he all of a sudden signed with the White Sox too is like they were even in the conversation. I thought this was a Mets.
Yeah.
Perks, man, come on, perks. There's some serious red M&Ms, if you know what I mean, metaphorically, featured in that deal. So they didn't offer that in Toronto, nor the tax benefits either that he's getting down there. So, but this is exciting. Like it's funny hearing all three of you tonight talking about this and using all of these really established data analytics. Being told that we can expect the fourth best offensive breakout with a yield that could make them the best in the AL. That's pretty music to my ears. It feels good because for years it was just austerity and frustration and soft resets and a lot of bullshit gobbledygook and double talking from the big corporate heads, but now I tip my hat to them. I say, at least you're spending a fraction of that huge profit you're making during COVID. So
it makes you look back at
that was a zinger through and through, by the way.
It makes you look back at 2017 and 2018 and be like, what the hell were we doing?
I know.
Younger Solarte!
Yeah, Solarte's awesome. He hits
But I argued, I had you all three of you were on my show during that era when I was doing the Jays Journal stuff. And I told you specifically that I felt they could have kept that window open for a year if they wanted to. Probably. And they could. They could have. And it would have been a mistake because we now know the deterioration's happening with, for example, Jose a lot faster than we thought. I thought that was very sad that we went from talking about the home run king to talking about the AA, pitching phenom that he's becoming or whatever, wacky world, man, Jose Bautista. Anyways, so I think that for me, I've got a long memory because it was painful to appreciate how it felt. We've been talking about 2015 and the lineup on the show. What about the feeling, guys? Remember that electricity of knowing that for the first time in God knows how many years, what was it? 22 years since they made it into the postseason. That's a long time, man. That's what's known as a generation. And the problem with waiting a full generation to get back to the postseason is now you realize how long in the tooth you're getting in between these appearances. If you want to tell me that I only had to wait 5 years from having Shapiro and Atkins get to a point where now they can build a sustainable team, I'd say that's actually pretty good. It didn't feel as good back then because I felt we could have sustained that window. But now we know Tulo didn't want to play here. And we know Jose's skills were deteriorating. And we know that there were other players. Yeah, exactly. Donaldson himself was looking to get paid and rightfully so. Although, again, the way they handled it, I felt like he deserved special treatment. What he did during that MVP year was a throwback to George Bell. Was a throwback to, the MVP World Series performances. The problem was, man, it was that ground out. God, if you could go back in time. The Ben Revere, what was it? The Ben Revere, who was the catcher at the time? Was it
Navarro?
Yeah, Navarro. Do you remember that? Sorry, guys. I hate to do this because I'm taking us back in time with painful. Exactly. But the truth is that that team, I think we can all agree, probably should have won the World Series. They were built to win. You know how you feel when you look at a team objectively? And we were being objective. We were pinching ourselves because we couldn't believe how good they were. But if you think about it, that was the moment. It didn't happen. Took LA a while. They figured it out. It took Tampa Bay time to get back. They figured it out. So
didn't they only lose 18 games after the trade deadline? Like that is some sort of insane run that you probably may not ever be able to do again. Like they were unbeatable, as close to unbeatable as you can be in baseball. They should have won the World Series.
You sat down and you expected them to win.
Yes.
Every game. It's not like, will this pitcher beat us? No, it was like, when will we get to this guy?
And how special it was is that even when R.A. Dickey was taking his turns through the rotation, you're like, R.A. Dickey's going to pitch very, very well tonight. And he did. He was awesome that second half of 2015.
And so the just to sum it back up, the same excitement that both of you guys are, all of you guys are exuding here. This is what the Blue Jays have to look forward to for 2021. This lineup being the main centerpiece of what this team is becoming. And the fun part about this is, they might not know where they're going to play, but one way or the other, this offense is going to absolutely destroy pitchers. And there's nowhere to hide, as we had mentioned. No matter how we piece this lineup together, there's no way that's wrong. The only thing that's honestly making me upset is that we can't come up with a cool acronym like WAMCO for this lineup because Charlie will never tell it the same thing 2 days in a row. So,
no, he has to.
He's going to have to. I don't know how he can play with this cool deep nonsense all over again, but because in all reality, I know Springer loves batting leadoff, but where do you put him if you're going to put him at leadoff right now? It seems a little weird with how the construction of this lineup is and who is around him, that he's anything but our 3-hole guy with probably what is going to be Bichette and Simeon now up at the top, or at least that would be how I would start my, assault.
Yeah.
Craig, you're such a sucker for offense in baseball, aren't you? I mean, you love it. I mean, I get this impression that you like analyze lineups before a game, and you can like
I'll be the my friend. Come on.
No, but you're like Morpheus in the Matrix, in the baseball Matrix. You're like looking at things and you're already seeing the possibilities. And I can't blame you for gushing. This is the lineup that finally we all hoped we would get from a combination of young talent, free agent signing savvy, and hopefully some leadership. And if you're, if you're Ross Atkins, who usually gets mocked for not doing anything, he's in the middle of this now, and he's looking like, as a general manager, he's going to make a few more moves, and he can turn this team into something very special this year. I just hope these young players, especially the ones who are the sons of baseball royalty in some form or another, realize what a rare opportunity. I mean, what do we got? We got Guerrero Jr., we got Biggio, Bichette, Vlad Guerrero Jr. I'm sure someone else on the team. There are a couple of other players who have like direct relation to fathers and other people who played this game in various points. It's it's a special time. It's a reason to be really excited, and we need it now, especially with what's going on around us, either politically or, the escapism. I've been talking a lot about that. It's like gravitas, escapism, but it's important. You need that. You need that. You don't want to cheer for a loser. And if you start cheering for a loser, you do this weird thing like we're Raptors fan. Most Raptors fans lost their heads for like 2 weeks because the team got off to a slow start. But you know what? The cream rises to the top at the end of the day. You know when something is good and has great possibilities. So Toronto fans just have to be patient. I think we're really going to get rewarded. This team's going to learn how to play better. We just need better fundamentals of baseball, because right now this team it's got that AAA odor about it. There's way too many Bull Durham moments with this baseball club that shouldn't happen. But you know what I mean? Like all of you agree, errors are a fact of life, but having a lack of fundamentals, it makes me even angrier. And you know what I'm talking about, the stuff that doesn't show up on the score sheet, like when you don't pick up an extra bag when you should, or when you start to get clever at the plate, and instead of recognizing what the runners are doing, I'd like to see more situational hitting. Let the home runs fly. They will, but I'd like to see good station-to-station baseball. I'm a purist that way, guys. You know that. In honor of what happened in losing Henry Aaron, I'm feeling kind of sad about the history of baseball. Yeah. Not just the players we're losing, but then, and I don't know if you want to talk about this now or save it for later in the show, but Curt Schilling coming up with his melodramatic Latin arc, Shakespearean theses on the cathedral wall. I don't know what's going on. Baseball's in a weird, strange place where social media and politics have filtered in. I just want the game to be pure and honest. Play it well, play it aggressively, inspire the kids, and let's play ball. That's all you can ask for at the end of the day, right?
There you go, Ari. On that note, fellas, I just happen to be looking at these Fangraphs projections for the Toronto Blue Jays' new lineup, and they are projecting 8 guys to hit over 20 home runs.
What?
Wow.
It's slightly ridiculous, isn't it? I just think it's hilarious, some of the group, and this will help spawn us into where we're going with what the hell we do with all this plethora of talent all of a sudden here in a second. But they are predicting our best player with a 4 WAR for the season will be Bo Bichette. Barely trailing him with a 3.9 is George Springer. That is, right now, Bichette, they say, is going to have 23 home runs, 28 for Springer. Moving along, Biggio, 22. There you go, Adam, points. Vladdy with 26. Go down to Lourdes is going to do 25. Rowdy, 27. Randall Grichuk, 31.
What? He's not going to play enough to get that.
That's the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then Teoscar, 35. My guess is that Randall number is still left around from knowing, beforehand that when we didn't have Springer, that there's like, here's your early projections, right? But either way, the fact that they're talking that we're going to have basically 7 starters matched to the tune of 20 home runs and 70 RBIs is kind of the basement number out of those same players. That's pretty exciting, guys. And that says Toronto Blue Jay baseball all over it, right? Chicks Dig the Lawn Ball has been the summation of Blue Jays offense basically ever. So
do you guys remember, and you wouldn't remember this because you'd have to reference it because it was 1991 when vaunted shortstop Manuel, don't call him Manny Lee, played a full season and didn't hit a single home run. And
Yeah.
it's like those days. I don't think it can even happen. I think accidentally you're going to hit a home run in today's Major League Baseball just because of the way, how hard the ball is thrown. Just put the bat out, you'll hit it. But no, that's an amazing statistic. If we see that consistently, this game will change for the local Toronto faithful, right? They'll start looking at every game as like a spectacle of the long ball, and why not? Young players mashing. That's what it should be. They should start doing the promo videos and showing all these new acquisitions just hitting home runs.
Yeah, Brendan, you want to pick it up, or Adam?
Go for it, Adam.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, it's. I don't know. It's the excitement, the it's just overwhelming, right? And I was just looking at this this blurb about how the Jays lineup would be constructed by weighted runs created plus, and everything about it is just it's music to my ears, right? And so, Craig, to your point, you said you were looking at Fangraphs.
That was the.
Yeah, you can't construct it incorrectly. I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but if you're doing it by weighted runs created plus, you have Springer, Biggio, Bichette, Hernandez, Gurriel, Guerrero, Tellez, Simeon, and Jansen.
Jeez.
Right, and you have that's Guerrero at what, 7th, 6th?
Yeah. Wow.
Come on, you can't go wrong.
Best game of life already.
Yes, you can't go wrong, and I wouldn't even have a problem if that was every day. I really wouldn't. And this doesn't even, I'm telling you right now, the lineups that we have and the team that we have is not what we're going to be walking in opening day with. It still wouldn't surprise me if, and I know we're going to get to it, if another move is going to be made, maybe another trade, depending on what opens up, get Castillo. There are options, right? And right now, it's just so exciting seeing you can construct this 4 ways to Sunday. But again, the criticism is, make sure it's consistent. Like, I don't mind if Montoyo messes with it in April and May, just sort of to get some sort of establishment down with the lineup. But once it clicks, do not mess with it. I don't want to see, like last year, Joe Panik playing DH. What are we doing? No. Just make it nice. It's there for you to play with, and then let it go. Keep it the same every day.
The scary thing about those projections that you brought up, Craig, with the home runs is that doesn't account for the catcher position, just because of how the games are split between each other. But if you look at whether it's Jansen and Kirk or Jansen and whoever it is, especially if it's Jansen and Kirk, they're going to combine for over 20 home runs as a tandem. And you know what? Right? And even over a full 162. I know Reese McGuire was absolutely garbage this past year, and I hate using that term to describe the way a player plays because it's pretty bad, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to not use that word for the way Reese McGuire was this past year. But even Reese has some power in his bat, where if he does open up as the backup and he plays somewhat consistently, he can get into a rhythm with a consistent plate appearances. Like, you could probably count on anywhere from 5 to 10 from him. And if Jansen breaks out, Jansen has 20-plus home run power in his bat. So no matter where you construct it, no matter what happens, it's going to be a dangerous lineup 1 through 9. There won't be any more Michael Kay comments about why is this guy batting here in this order when he referred to Danny Jansen back before he hit that grand slam. But yeah, the lineup construction every day is going to be fascinating to me because I think we brought this up throughout this past season. And I know it's because there's still a lot of holes you're trying to get people figured out. But I am fully under the impression that the analytics department spits out whatever the computer gives it, hands it to Charlie, and be like, this is the most optimized lineup for today. And this is what you're going to do. And because Charlie is the minion of the front office and the analytics department, brace yourselves, guys. It's going to be a varying lineup almost every single day. I don't think we're going to see a John Gibbons type thing where it's going to be Revere, Donaldson, Bautista, Edwin. It's not going to be that. I could see some consistency in some guys taking consistent spots, whether it's going to be Springer or Bo in the leadoff spot way more often than not. But I think after maybe the cleanup hitter, you're probably going to have varying lineups every single day. But again, the beauty of it is at this point, you probably cannot get it wrong with however it's constructed.
You can't.
And there's nothing wrong with putting Vlad 7th, by the way, and keeping him there for
not at all. Yeah, I agree.
I think he needs to prove to himself first and foremost and the fans that he can be a consistent hitter in high leverage situations. And to me, you're not going to put him in a high leverage situation consistently if he can't prove it. Why not let him have, relax down there, lower in the lineup, maybe try to protect another player, just try to show some maturity in his development. I like that he's slimmed down, but he's been treated like a prima donna from the moment they signed him. Seriously, like the guy had never heard about athleticism and working out because no one told him, because nobody wanted to bother him. He was too busy showing off his natural skill. He was the prodigy. Be a prodigy, act like a prodigy, go out there and do the best you can in the situation, earn the respect of the fans, and then by midseason climb up to be the team's cleanup hitter and help them ride the wave into the playoffs. That's a hell of a lot better narrative than watching this kid struggle, because when he struggles, it's embarrassing a little bit now if he has another year like this, because it'll be clear that he was just completely overrated and overhyped. Fact's a fact.
Yep.
A prodigy's not supposed to struggle his first 2.5 years in the bigs. Bring it. Let's see what you got now.
Make him earn it.
To your point about batting him lower in the lineup, I know the situations are a little bit different, but do we remember where Jose Bautista was batting primarily during his 54 home run season? He was primarily 6th or 7th that entire year, right. Until after, I think, the All-Star game, or maybe in August, where they're like, holy crap, this breakout is real. Did they elevate him in the lineup? But yeah, Bautista had to fight with whoever else was in that 2010 lineup. I think there were still Vernon Wells, and other guys in there. Roland, yeah, I'm pretty sure he is on the 2010 team. But yeah, Bautista, the majority of that 54 home run season was batting in the bottom half of the lineup. And I don't know, if Vlad's batting down there and the breakout is real, I think we could be looking at 40-plus homers. I don't know, I'm just saying.
Wow.
Bring it. Well, especially...
What are you smoking? I love it. I love it. That's Toronto's finest right there. 40-plus for Vlad in a full season. I love it.
I mean, the rumor is they're going to be playing in Dunedin, at least for the first half of the season.
Yeah.
You can see him legitimate, and especially in the first half, right? So assuming there's a vaccine and whatnot and things normalize, so say even by August, would it surprise you if in Dunedin he hits 25 up until August? Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Not at all.
Used to that place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody is.
So why I was shocked he didn't break out. But hey, like I said, best shape of his life candidate already right off the bat.
It's
not even a spring training.
More nostalgia, by the way, more nostalgic references. Scott Rowland. Oh man, was this guy was a baller. He was such a throwback. Watching him play, even as a Blue Jays, acquisition, if you will. I mean, he also was like Tulo. He didn't really want to be here, but at least the front office gave him a chance, if you remember, to rebuild his credibility after the injuries that he suffered. Yeah. You want to talk about quality at bats. I miss a player like that. I hope Vlad can look up at a Springer and say, hey, I'm watching you and the way you approach the plate, and I'm going to stop swinging for things 60 feet out of the zone. I'm not my dad. We've already established that.
Yes.
But I can be my own man. And I
like that in the minors either. I watched him enough times in the minor leagues. He didn't swing at anything unless it was like had to be straight down the pipe.
He's got the yips,
yes, that's exactly it.
So take the pressure off, man. Be down there 6th, 7th. Bautista, by the way, benefited enormously from pitchers who completely and utterly underestimated him for like 2.5 years. Even after he became the home run king, I think pitchers still felt they could challenge him and they'd lose because he'd get on top of their fastball. Nobody gets on top of a fastball better than Jose Bautista in his prime. Vlad has that ability.
Yeah.
You better throw the ball at Bautista, otherwise you're just going to pay.
Hey, man. Also, Scott Rowland gave us Edwin Encarnacion.
That is very true.
Shout out to Scott Rowland.
He gave us doubly and statistically this year, he picked up the biggest gain in his Hall of Fame chances. Insert segue here. Right? All right, Craigers?
As much as I love to talk Hall of Fame, there's not a ton to talk about. It's the same argument every year. Steroids guys in or steroid guys out.
Whoa. But is it really, though, in the end? I mean, do we really want to lump Curt Schilling in with Bonds and Clemens? I'm asking that honestly. Do we want to do that?
Ballot, so I don't think it's even a question anymore.
I don't want a dude that says I don't care about going into a Hall of Fame and then writes a novel about not caring about being in the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry. It was legitimate. It was legitimately the definition of boomer TLDR. I did not read a word of that because I'm not. It's just scroll. I'm not.
It was really bad baseball melodrama. Like seriously, I felt like I was getting sucked into like a literary vortex of his mind, and there was only like bad things happening. Like fire and brimstone and dragons. It was one of the strangest things that I guess should be expected from a narcissist like him.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
one of the symptoms of narcissism is this delusion of grandeur where you convince other people that you're somehow a victim of something. The worst part is if he just grinned, you grin and bear it, and just moved on, he probably gets in next year.
Oh,
Yeah.
He missed it by 16 votes, but you know what happened? The indignation of missing it this year when he was expecting it, because I believe he's going through some hardships in his family, missing it by such a small margin, that indignation he couldn't stomach, and so he went on the offense. And I agree with you, Adam. It shows a very poor character, because it's a Hall of Fame that means something. It's not like the Wrestling Hall of Fame. God bless the wrestling fans out there, of which I myself was 25 years ago at some point with, Hulk Hogan and King Kong Bundy and whatnot. But that was really old school. To me, it's all make-believe, it's fun, great. The Baseball Hall of Fame is like the most revered. Would you say it's arguably one of the most revered, hallowed halls, right?
Yes.
All four of us in this conversation grew up with the prerequisites you needed, the legendary prerequisites. What were they? 3,000 hits? 500 home runs, right? At least a 300 average.
Yes.
And then over the years, you soften it a bit. Why? Because they just don't make them like they used to. Let's be honest, man. We grew up in the best era of baseball. In my opinion, the best era, which was I would say, mid-70s up to mid-90s. Take the whole, in the mid-80s, especially the mid-80s. The Ricky Henderson, Darryl Strawberry, Don Mattingly, lots of cocaine, lots of alcohol, but at least they weren't cheating. At least they weren't doping. At least
the original PED.
Exactly. I like the old school crooks a lot better than the new school, right? Because the new school were the ones who played with the expectation and entitlement that they are somehow going to be walked into this place. And the reason Schilling hasn't, and we all know that, is because he can't keep his mouth shut. He's a very opinionated man. He's a very political figure. And I think it was just too much when he made the comments about the U.S. Capitol and the fact that he has a history of saying things that offend a lot of people. And I know about you, but if I'm trying to get into the Hall of Fame as a leader of men, as they say in Gondor, right? I want to show off Lord of the Rings style that I deserve to be enshrined, then I need to set an example. I need to be a model. I need you guys have kids. I want your kids to say, hey, we should cheer for him because he inspired us and we look up to him. Nobody is saying that about Curt Schilling. He didn't inspire anyone, but maybe those fans who were involved with the Red Sox and the Phillies once upon a time. And that's a big problem. He doesn't get it through his thick skull. Humility, dude. A little bit of grace goes a long way when you're an American. But if you don't have any of it, then you do weird sociopathic activity. I don't know what that was. That post was just I've been wronged, to hell with this. And now everybody's following him who are his supporters, like Lemmings, saying we have to facilitate him, let's talk him down, let's make sure he's happy. What are we doing here? It's a privilege. It is a stone cold privilege to go to the Hall of Fame. And
anyway,
complain like that. Anyway, sorry for the rant. It's
all good.
At the end of the day, he's a legendary arm, but a average head. He doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame for that.
I got one joke to make on your cocaine fueled rant there.
Oh,
Brent Laurie did his damnedest to try making Red Bull the best drug that was on the baseball field. Just saying.
Man, Brent Laurie, what a strange cat, man. I can't get over that dude. That dude was so amped. Seriously, it looked like one day he was going to spontaneously combust. He was going to have that little piece of chocolate when he was full, and then his stomach would explode and he'd disappear Monty Python style. I don't know what was wrong with that dude. Way too many, uppers and medication. I don't know.
Like the Atomic Warheads, that little animated thing that was on the candy.
Craigers, you knew you were going to get one rant. You were just wincing and waiting for it to come, so I delivered it at the end.
So anyway, let's wrap this up on where the Blue Jays go for, because everybody that's been hammering us on the social media stuff this evening this is all wonderful. We're great. We're happy, excited. What the hell comes next? We had mentioned the pitching staff needs to be sorted out. There is way too much question going on in starting rotation. Who takes pieces? Who does what? Where do we get these better pieces from? I got to say, first thing that comes up every week again, and has been asked repetitively this evening, is Trevor Bauer still a Blue Jay target? And do you guys actually believe that?
No.
After that rant, what do you think the answer is?
Yeah.
Honestly, is that what we need? You know what? Actually, I think the scary thing is, Craig, I think he is a possibility. I think the Blue Jays front office just might go ahead and say, you know what? We've got all the press. We've got all the – look, we can agree that getting the focus on your team now is more important than ever because everyone's stuck at home and fans are yearning for something to believe in. Can you imagine if this team tomorrow goes out and announces that they've signed Trevor Bauer to a multi-year deal, whatever it is? The problem is, I personally would wonder whether a guy like that could handle this market, or at least the association with this market, because he's such a larger-than-life personality. You know, a mercurial talent. He's figured it out. But again, he's one of those guys that, like, you ask yourself, do you really need him to take the next step forward to absolutely win? Because if the answer is yes, then you do it. But the cultural fallout, I don't know how much credence you guys and how much stock you put inside building a culture or tradition of baseball. Trevor Bauer to me is just a really wild card, tough player to get. You know, he's like getting a James Harden. You know, you're getting a talent, but you're also getting a lot of baggage and temperament that may not coalesce nicely with your goal of building a championship team.
Well, you're saying you don't want to see him rifle balls into the flight deck in the middle of the game?
I'm saying I hope nobody kicks. I just don't want him kicked in the balls when he's walking outside, you know, Canadian streets, thinking he can just mouth off the way he does. You know, like I said, that guy also has a history. And unlike Springer, who was associated with the team, Bauer to me is like a lightning rod for controversy. It seems like, you know, and by the way, we were talking off mic about the importance of social media grace, you know, how you work professionally. The guy doesn't care. He'll say anything or do anything. And is this media company owned Blue Jays team prepared to chase after him? You're going to need like 4 PR guys who look like, you know, Israeli commandos guarding him just to make sure he doesn't hit send on Twitter and ruin the brand, which we know you can do pretty quickly. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
well, you and I talked about that, Craig, a couple of years back with the whole decision to to address what happens when a player does something controversial. You know, so I just don't want to. I don't want that headache personally. I say the Jays, you know, if they can get him, great, but there are other options too.
Okay, brick of money to Bauer aside, where do we go? And what do you guys think is a viable option? I think we've mentioned on this show many a times. Taijuan Walker seems to be the easy answer. Do you fellas see anybody outside of Taijuan Walker that has been sitting around that is actually legitimately have a shot at?
Odo.
Makes sense.
Odorizzi would be nice.
Odorizzi, yeah.
Stable.
You can probably get both Odorizzi and Walker.
That makes a nice right there.
Yes.
There was a media availability after the whole Springer presser with definitely some Sportsnet guys. And there was one quote from Ross Atkins that makes me think that something's brewing here, guys. He said, we're at the point now where if we were to acquire 2 major pieces, it would require likely subtracting from our big league roster, not for financial reasons, but for opportunity reasons. And to me, that screams a Cubs with Kyle Hendricks and Chris Bryant, or maybe a Reds with Luis Castillo and Eugenio Suarez. And they do have some major pieces. I could name 4 guys. Adam, you're not going to like me naming one of them, but I think he's very much in play for the right package. Cavan, even though he's probably the guy I want to move the least of the guys in the big league roster of the 4, there's probably Cavan, whether it's Danny Jansen or Alejandro Kirk, one of the catchers, because they have 5 on their 40-man roster right now. They need to make some space. And then one of the 2 outfielders. I think Teoscar is pretty much off the table, but Lourdes and Randall. Randall's probably the least attractive piece that they have right now on the big league roster, just because even though they're making just shy of $10 million and they say 1 WAR, which Grichuk could probably produce, is worth about $8 million. So we slightly overpaid when you look at it from that perspective. But Lourdes or Biggio or Jansen are probably the 3 that are the most attractive to a team right now. And where are they saying Cavan's playing? Third base. In all those trade scenarios, the 2 position players are third basemen, whether it's Bryant or Eugenio Suarez. So I don't know. I think that quote kind of tips the cap, or just. I think you could peer into that a little bit more and maybe read beyond just the tweet that Arden Zwelling put out there. I think there's some legs to a deal somewhere, and one could happen.
Do you mind if I offer you some pushback on that?
Yeah, go for it.
I think honestly, after reviewing the contracts and after looking at how they're spending the money and the surplus of contracts that they've been giving out, it wouldn't surprise me if Teoscar is on the block, right? And I agree with you that Grichuk is the one that we would like to trade the most because he's the one that doesn't fit the most. And given the contract, it's really kind of shitty to have that much money as a fourth outfielder. But at the same time, I think they love Lourdes, right? And today, Springer specifically mentioned Bo, Vladdy, Lourdes, Cavan. I think that was, you don't trade one of them away if they were a big reason why the most marquee free agent you've ever signed joins the team.
True.
Correct.
Right now, Teoscar is in his arbitration years. He has 2 more, and they're only going to keep increasing. Whereas Lourdes, his contract is, the same. It's stagnant. Same thing with Springer. You know what you have him for. Really wouldn't surprise me if they traded Teoscar, so they don't have to pay him those RBers. They don't have to negotiate with him for an extension if they don't want to, right? And you could convert Cavan into an outfielder at that point. And then you have Austin Martin coming probably next year who can supplement that, and you can then move Cavan back to first base if Semien doesn't stay. I think it makes sense to trade Teoscar right now. And as much as I don't want him traded because he kind of broke out, maybe it's a sell high.
That's a good point, because when you go into arbitration each year, his salary is going to go up and up and up, where with Springer, you know what you're paying him, Randall, you know what you're paying him, and Gurriel, you know what you're paying him moving forward. And Biggio, yeah, exactly. So I didn't think of that. That is definitely possible. I believe in the breakout. I think others do too, but I can absolutely see somebody like the Cubs, if they want a major league piece back, being like, yeah, we'll take Teoscar.
To your point, one of the more highly rated off-season shows we've had so far on this show was the pending Cubs fire sale, and we talked extensively for a whole episode on the fact that the Cubs look like they're going to be selling. In the midst of this, how much of this do you think they're ready to compete in the next couple of years by getting somebody like Teoscar in a trade, or are they looking to get somebody in their prime when they actually are good again, which I would be the Kevin Biggio argument, in my opinion, on that piece. First, if you're really talking, they're going to get rookies one way or the other, prospects, but that other quote unquote major league ready piece I agree that the Cubs would love to have somebody like Teoscar Hernandez just destroying everything in the Wrigley Field, the friendly confines. It makes sense, but in the midst of that, are they leaning more toward younger, maybe going to be peaking in 2 years, 3 years instead of next couple years like Teoscar's? But the nice thing about Teoscar is you can give him some consistency in the middle of that lineup for a few years, and then we get what we want in Chris Bryant, Kyle Hendricks. What do you guys think?
And with the Darvish deal, that didn't ring true because they got a lot of lower depth minor league talent that probably won't be ready in 2-3 years, right? And if they are,
the Cubs specifically, where the Reds are a little different.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pay a premium to get Castillo, but if you're doing the Cubs deal with Bryant and Hendricks, I don't know that it might not even cost you anything on the major league roster. I'm being serious. It might not. Now, and the only 2 untouchables that I would feel that are in the system are Martin and Woods Richardson. Maybe, like, otherwise.
Not lumping Pearson in the prospect thing anymore, just to be clear, right?
Okay, then no. I'm saying as a young talent. So even then, yeah, like it would probably cost you a cloth. And I know this is gonna break your heart, Craig, but I would throw in Perdino. I really would, if it meant having the control of Hendricks and having that stopgap year at Bryant mashing at third base. I'd do it.
I do it all day, every day too. My biggest thing in that trade scenario is I think if you're selling Perdino right now after a bounce, where he's due to bounce back this season from an off season and surgery last year, you're selling really low on Perdino's talent, and it's literally the name power of the kid from Brazil,
right?
Situation right now. I honestly wonder how much that surgery is really hurting his trade value. But then again, he hasn't played above single A. It's really hard to really project what he's going to do. I've seen the kid pitch, and I have no doubts in my mind that he's going to be at least a mid-tier arm. I think he's going to be even better and probably even pushing for an ace job throughout his career. But like I said, I don't think that other baseball teams are going to be thinking that same thing. He would end up being that wild card / throw-in, and kind of on that same level as somebody like Zach Davis. And unfortunately, he's Zach Davis. Be mean to Zach Davis because he's been looking pretty damn good the last couple of years. But it is what it is. I just think that it's going to take somebody with that. I think you're going to be in that ballpark of our mid guys to get just Chris Bryant, 15th level prospect or something like that. And then if you are going after Kyle Hendricks, he's the one that would be the more sought after person, more expensive. And I think that is where the Blue Jays are going to have to fork up the major league close to ready kind of guy, where we're talking here in Teoscar and Randall company. I just don't see those guys, unless Randall is literally just here, take this and balance the salary out a little bit while they're doing everything. I really think that's the only way that gets done with Randall and that deal with the Cubs anyways. And like we were saying, they're going to have to literally throw the freaking prospect wallet at the freaking Reds to get Luis Castillo and Suarez.
Right.
Yeah. Bryant alone wouldn't cost much at all, but I don't think it makes much sense to go after Bryant if you're not at least trying to get Kyle Hendricks either. Hendricks is the one that will make the prospect capital go up. Bryant alone, I don't think he could fetch very much for the Cubs right now. I agree. Yeah, with money left down year 2. It's Hendricks that makes it kind of like with the Reds. If you were just going after Suarez, I think he could get more on his own than Bryant would for the Cubs. But it's the pitching that definitely brings the price up for sure.
Ari, you look very perplexed. Come on, I know, let it out, man.
No, there's nothing to be perplexed about. It's it's the same thing of how we're seeing stocks. Well, maybe not today because they're all being artificially inflated. I just bought a couple of shares of BlackBerry and Bed Bath and Beyond because I'm excited. But no, it's if it comes down to choosing between Blockbuster, good reference there. If it comes down to choosing between a player that is probably peaked in Hernandez. I'm saying that, of course, not knowing at all. He might continue his ascension. He really picked up his game in so many ways. But at the end of the day, I think that you don't trade Gurriel. You don't touch Gurriel. You let Gurriel continue to evolve on this team as part of this nucleus of players who are growing up together. There's a lot of collateral in that. Hernandez, to me, is a different cat because he was a reclamation project. That surprise actually fucking worked out. Good for Shapiro and Atkins to finally get one of these projects that they can kind of maybe hang their hat on. So maybe now you're thinking, what if he's a Bautista? What if you trade him away and he goes on a barrage in the NL? You know what? That's fine. It's not a big deal. You're going to get value if you can pull a trade for one of the players we've been talking about on the Cubs. But for me, Hernandez, he's still that guy who doesn't help you with station-to-station baseball. And I think the analytics are important for this team. They want guys who have on-base percentages that allow them to make things happen by being on base. Hernandez is still too much of a one-dimensional all-or-nothing player that if you have a chance to make this trade, you do it. You risk it. He's the stock that you can let go of. You don't touch Gurriel Jr. and then find out, 2 to 3 years later when he's winning potentially MVP, which he could. He's got the chops to do it, especially in this protected lineup. They could do some really creative things with him in the lineup, a lot more, I think, than they can with Hernandez.
Agreed, 100%.
All right, well, that answers basically the summation of all of our Twitter and Facebook and whatnot collective from the Jays Nation. So thank you, fellas. And thank you for everybody submitting those questions about what the heck's next. We're very tantalized at what could be coming next, and obviously there's plenty of options. We are all in agreement that it's going to center around pitching, though, because this lineup, pretty set.
Yeah.
Just saying. So, fellas, is there any other topics you would like to get off your chest before we run off into the regular off week here, I guess, until next Wednesday?
Nah, tank's empty for me, man. I'm good.
As he table flips about Kevin Biggio and no, you can't do that.
Oh, wait. Yes. I miss my Bills. That's all.
Yeah, I miss my Bills too.
I'm sorry, guys. After a special season like that for the first time in years, you miss it, and you cannot. You will be the most excited for the kickoff of next NFL season that you have been in forever. That's just how much that's just how it is.
Same team Adam and I fell in love with and watched all season, didn't bother showing up this past Sunday.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, and for people listening, next Tuesday is when we're going to record.
Yes.
Next Tuesday, not Wednesday.
Right, I forgot we have one next week. So Tuesday, next week at 7 p.m.
Yes.
Until then, I hope everybody has been noticing the wonderful fun that Adam, Brendan, and I have been having with Quick Hits. We're going to try getting you guys as much more content as we humanly possibly can. Luckily, there has been a few things for us to chit chat and whatnot about over the last few weeks, or actually it's been about 2 weeks we've been doing the quick hits now, right?
Yeah.
So obviously we're going to keep filling those up more, and as Blue Jay news continues more and more daily, we're going to give you more and more Blue Jays content. And speaking of wonderful, fun content, we just started this today, and we're going to make it available because through the Blue Jay Twitterverse, we have been getting more and more feedback about people that for some reason want to donate to the show, or at least to our beer fund, or they want to get a little trinket, or maybe join us on the show. So I started one of the Patreon accounts that everybody can dive into. It is patreon.com/birdwatchinggc. We have a regular standard donation thing if you're interested, $5 a month, fine. Other pieces, we are actually offering a founders package exclusively to 25 Blue Jay fans. And what you get for that donation on that one is $10 a month. Is we're actually going to schedule one of those quick hits that I was just alluding to literally interview you with the gang here on your Blue Jay fandom and just have a nice little chat. And that is what you get for joining us more or less as a quasi member of Jade Bird Watching. And obviously, thank you very much to everybody that even brought this up and brought this to our attention, because honestly, I was kind of floored when anybody was actually interested in this idea. And like I said, this came purely from Jays Nation. This wasn't something we cooked up on our own. So there you go. You guys have anything you want to add to that?
No, we love for the support. We hope you're interested in doing that. Last thing I will say before we wrap up is Craig, Brennan, and I, we were just on the Stadium Scene 10 Minutes with You podcast that will be released next week. It will be a YouTube and audio version. So, shout out to Stadium Scene for the support. We appreciate you guys.
Love having you guys and love being part of the team, which is apparently rather extensive. I knew we were doing really well, but I was shocked when he gave us the numbers on 170 different sports outlets. That was really, really cool to hear, and very, very fun, obviously, for us to be a part of it. And it's good stuff. Until then, next week, guys, catch us on social media, chit chat with the gang. Ari Shapiro. You got any parts of wisdom here before we, your shameless self-promoting for your own podcast here?
Just a second. Hang on. Let me just buy Atari stock, Kodak, and Sanyo. Sorry, man. I just wanted to build my portfolio. Always a pleasure, gentlemen, to be on your show. And you shouldn't be surprised, by the way, that Jays Nation loves you the way they do. You guys do great work. It's a lot of fun to be on this show. And above all else, it makes us appreciate just how wonderful the sport can be amidst all this fear and loathing. You guys bring a smile to a lot of people's faces, myself included. So thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks,
pleasure as always. So until next week, Blue Jays fans, 2 claps and a Ric Flair.
Let's do it.
Woo! Let's go Blue Jays.
Blue Jays.
Oh, yeah.